It's terrible.
Oh well, get it together. I know you died at 47 or something, but come on, figure it out. Hello, and welcome back to the book reviews, the series that we started in March, promptly put up one episode of, and then you never heard from us again.
We died.
So we just kind of had a summer. We did bees, we did a lot of things. We're back. And we're committed. There's going to be one video per week on this channel. If I say it here, that'll force me to do it. There's going to be this series once per month, which is our... Oh, we still don't have a name. Bookathon? Aldra Readathon?
I love it. Yeah.
Readathon? Read along?
Readathon's meant to take place in a set amount of time.
Shut up. So we read one book every month together, and then we discuss our thoughts. The idea is that we will tell you the book at the end of the previous episode. You will then read it with us, and maybe in the comments you can discuss it. Videos are going to come out first Saturday of every month. I arbitrarily decided this.
Saturdays are a good day?
Last month, and by that I mean March, we decided on George Orwell's A Clergyman's Daughter after reading Kitchen Confidential, I believe.
That's the one, yeah.
Yes. Now, I'm going to say straight away that this is going to be a primarily Olivia-led episode for the simple fact that I once again, yes, it happens again, I DNF'd the book. I DNF'd, did not read Clergyman's Daughter. I got to near the end of the first act section, first book.
Technically a chapter, but it's
technically
more like
a chapter, but it lasted 1,000 years. It lasted a very long time. So I'll say straight away, I did not enjoy A Clergyman's Daughter in the slightest, but my opinion shouldn't be trusted because I didn't bloody read 80% of it.
You did read the first 85 pages.
I read 85 pages.
That's quite a big bit of it. That's the first.
So take it away.
Well, okay, right.
Oh, and we're drinking some martinis.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers. Oh, and also we got married since the last episode came out.
No, I don't think we did.
Alright, we'll carry on.
I think that was the previous one. Kitchen Confidential.
Cut that!
First bit. Why didn't you like the first bit? Why didn't you carry on?
I didn't like the first bit because it was extremely long and boring. Being very frank, it was very dull.
Yeah.
I think it had some interesting little tidbits of cool dialogue, but most of it was a devout, pristine clergyman's daughter, was the title. And it was that. It was just endlessness of her going about her dreary life and going, life is pretty bad, I don't like it, I wish I didn't live this life. Shame I have to live this life. Oh well, what can you do? Oh, I'm getting raped? Oh no, what can you do?
The rape is up for debate.
The rape,
it's been changed.
When I have to say the rape is up for debate, there's a problem here. Carry on.
Okay, everything you said is right.
Yeah.
About the first bit. Problem is, it completely changes in the second bit.
Yeah.
You've got.
Olivia has told me what happens.
Yeah, you've got the first bit, which was one of the most boring things I've ever read. I don't know, just kind of depressing. Listening to this poor girl be a slave to her father, going around being a great Christian girl helping the community, but basically not living. She's just kind
a
of
slave.
And then it gets a bit weird, and then...
But before you get to full spoilers, full opinion of the book first.
If it hadn't been Orwell, I'd have put it down when you put it down.
Ah, that's fair.
And I persevered. I think this should have been a collection of short stories.
Yeah, definitely.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4 main parts to this book, and every single one could be a completely different main character telling a completely different story.
Yeah.
Without, like you said, not to say spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, if this feels like each chapter was based on one of his real life experiences, apart from the first chapter that you read.
Yeah.
And he wanted to either make a point or tell a story, but rather than it being separate characters telling these separate short stories, he decided to do it as one flowing story that did not flow.
Yeah, yeah.
It was terrible.
Leave a little bit.
There were bits I enjoyed, and there were bits that I absolutely hated, but it's hard to talk about those without spoilers. So.
Now spoilers!
Alright, so the first bit that you read was the worst part of the book.
But overall our consensus is, my goodness, what a crappy book. Or good for Orwell for also going back and saying, this is the worst book I've written.
However,
don't read it.
To counter that, there's one bit in this book that he does like, and I thought that was the worst part of the book.
The hobo bit.
I absolutely hated that bit, and that was the only bit he said he liked. So.
Alright, here on out, spoilers, but it's mostly going to be Olivia telling the spoilers because I read 85 pages and I went, and thank you very much, goodbye.
You should have carried on.
Okay.
It did pick up. I definitely picked up.
Okay.
Right, so yeah, the first bit, like I said, really boring. You're just watching her just go about what feels like, I think it's only a day. And in the evening, she goes to Mr. Warburton's house. I don't really know how you describe him. How would you...
a rapist.
Okay.
He is an eccentric.
Bearing in
That
mind
is his
that
description.
she's in her young 20s, she's early 20s,
Yes.
lives with her dad, very religious little girl. He's kind of the opposite to that, isn't he? He's much
He's a
older,
travelled
wealthy.
eccentric, yeah.
Goes there and...
A rake would be a word for him.
Oh, okay.
It's an old 18th century word to describe someone who's a little bit... Is in a higher class society, but is well known for debauching young women, committing misdeeds, and generally being a kind of person you want to keep away from.
Okay.
A rake.
Well, that would definitely be him, yeah.
Rakish.
Who potentially rapes her that night.
Yes.
But...
Made love to her.
No, but the wording of it has been changed since the original.
Yes.
And I think the original did outright say he raped her.
Yeah.
And it's been changed, and so now there's some debate, did he, didn't he, whatever.
She's just cool with it.
She doesn't really react to this, does she? And then she goes home, and that's the end of that section. But rather than waking up the next morning at home, she wakes up in, I don't know, whether it's like a hostel room or some random room in London.
Wait, he rapes her again, then?
No, at the end of the bit that you just read.
She'd already raped him by this point. It had been a thing that he had already done.
No, when she goes for dinner.
Yeah.
Did you not get to the dinner? She goes
I
for dinner.
stopped at the dinner, yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. So
There's different
Right,
reference
yeah,
to a different point where he tried to force love on her, yeah.
Right, no, he invites her round for dinner that night.
Yes.
That long day, that 85-page day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the, like...
No, I dig it.
Did he or didn't he rape her bit because the wording's been changed? Yeah.
I'm inclined to think that what he actually did was just force himself on her,
Yeah.
and she resisted. He went, "Oh, fine, what else? Go home." Basically.
Yeah, it doesn't really want to detail it.
Yeah.
And annoyingly, is not actually important for the book. Because the next morning, she's in this random room in London, no memories, doesn't know who she is, no idea. Over the course of that day, things do start to come back to her, but it's still pretty iffy. She then meets up with, I'm not really sure how to describe them, a couple of homeless people, I guess.
Yeah, beggars.
In London.
And this section is very much inspired by Orwell's travels with the homeless in Down and Out in Paris and London, right?
No, that's the next bit.
Well, I'm going to be quiet.
In this bit, it's inspired by experiences hot picking in Kent.
Damn.
Alright, so what happens is
Pay attention,
there's
Sam.
3 of them to start with, I think, and they decide that they are going to go hop picking for the summer in Kent. And the entire chapter is her experience, still not really remembering who she is, takes on a different name. She's aware her memories aren't right, and so she's kind of aware that she's kind of put on this act, but she doesn't know who she is. Takes on a fake name, and off she goes with them, hot picking, and it really details what life was like, and like they get to know the families that have gone from London for the summer to Kent to hot picking. I enjoyed that chapter, but I enjoyed that chapter because I live in Kent, and it was interesting to hear.
We grew hops this summer. We made a beer from our own hops.
That was fun. Yeah, it was kind of cool. I don't really know much apart from it was a tradition for people to have their summer holiday in Kent hot picking, and so that was cool. If you didn't live in Kent and you didn't care about people going hot picking in that time period, as boring as the previous chapter. But I got something from that, so that's fine. End of that chapter, she gets her memories back, remembers who she is. It's nearing the end of the summer anyway. She then writes to her father. Meanwhile, while she's been away, nosy old neighbour, can't remember her name, that she was mentioned in the first chapter, has been spreading rumours that she ran off to Europe with Mr. Warburton.
And who just happened to have also been leaving on a trip for a long time.
Yeah, so
he's established as a busybody.
I'm pretty sure it was that they ran off together, or something scandalous.
I think something that she was like carrying his kid
in that time.
I read the notes.
Nosy old woman with nothing better to do spreads these rumours, and so the dad's not replying, and so she goes back to London, tiny bit of money that she has made hot picking, rents a room, can't get a job, money very quickly runs out. She becomes homeless. And then we go into the 3rd chapter, the worst chapter of the entire book, her homeless in Trafalgar Square. And rather than it being text, it is written like a play, which probably
it just becomes a play. Why does he decide to change the form?
Yeah,
all right, E.E. Cummings, get out of here.
Absolutely terrible, because not just is it suddenly written like a play, which I could just about cope with, you don't know any of these people apart from her, right? And she plays a really minor part in this, and most of it seems to take part over one night in Trafalgar Square, and it's felt to me like, I don't know how many pages it was, but it was too many, ramblings of these homeless people, these drunks, these crazy people, all mixed together, none of them actually having a conversation, or at least that's what I took from it, all just talking. And police officer comes along occasionally, It was agony. I think it was actually the shortest chapter in the entire book, and it went on the longest. I just wanted it to be over. I got nothing from it. I didn't care about these homeless people, and I couldn't keep up with, and that was because I couldn't keep up with who was who, because it was suddenly written like a play, and these people aren't actually having a conversation. You're just constantly flicking backwards and forwards going, right, that person that just said that crazy thing, oh right, yes, they're that person, and like it was just confusing. It was horrible. I hated it. But apparently that is the only bit of this book that Orwell likes.
Which is so strange, because it's something bit that Olivia hates the most. But he
terrible.
does at least say that he thinks this is his worst written text.
Apart from that chapter.
Apart from that chapter, which he says is one of his better.
Yeah, he likes that bit. I hated it. Even if it hadn't been written as a play, I think I would have hated it. Because the problem is that when you go hot picking, while they're new characters, you're still very much focused on Dorothy, the main character. And through Dorothy, you get to know the other characters. And you get to not just know the other 3 homeless people which she's with, but you get to know the people who are hot picking with her. In this chapter, Dorothy is so minor, and it's suddenly written like a play. You're just like...
She's like fly on the wall, just listening to homeless talking.
It's just like, what's going on? And these people are not having what I felt was a conversation you could even follow.
I'd rather reread Down and Out in Paris and London.
Yeah, if you want to know about that kind of, if you want to know about homeless and what it's like, and like it all takes place over one night, so it's like what it's like to be in Trafalgar Square in the evening, and like it's what you don't see if you're not homeless because you're at home in bed, whereas so interesting concept, terribly executed.
I just struggled so much with this. That was you wouldn't have got through that. Maybe you would have. Maybe I don't know, because it's a different writing style. And anyway, I just struggled. I just found it. I found that it opened. The whole text opened with really quite nice writing.
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, I'm reading an Orwell," and then it just went on forever, and I just got bored.
The description of her like washing the old woman's feet or something, it was just too much in that first chapter.
What an odd thing to write.
It was bizarre. So while she's hot picking and she's homeless, obviously her dad's ignoring her because her dad is embarrassed because of this scandal. But what he does do is he writes to his cousin who is in London and says, please help her out. She's arrested after a couple of days of being homeless.
Of course.
Yeah, which then, I can't remember the details of it now because it was a while ago, leads to the connection with the cousin. And the cousin then gets her a job in a school. And there we go to the next chapter. And what is again feels like a complete jump, complete different world, and almost Dorothy suddenly feels like a different character as well. And by this point she's remembered completely who she is as well.
Yeah.
And the point of this chapter, I think, was playing off of Orwell's experience of teaching.
Yes.
And also, it's very much meant to be critiquing what he thinks is wrong with the education system at that point. This school is, it's fee-paying. It's very much about you keep the parents happy. We don't really care about the education of the children. The parents are almost put into 3 different brackets according to how much they pay and how often they pay. And according to that is how well the children are taken care of and how well their needs are met. And it's like... It's not about teaching them anything of quality, anything that will help them in life. It's about appeasing the parents. And Dorothy does not agree with that. Dorothy thinks that education should be fun. These children should be learning stuff. She takes a very practical approach. Their education decorates the room, as maps up. It's very much, what I guess he thought education should be versus what it was at the time. Obviously, this doesn't go well. The parents find out, they complain, and eventually she loses the job.
Okay.
Right? And then we start to come to the conclusion of the book where she's leaving this school and there appears Mr. Warburton.
I didn't knock her up. I didn't have to say
yeah, back from Europe and informs her that the old woman spreading the rumours has been found out. Everyone knows that it was all a lie.
This woman who makes up lies all the time and insults everybody, she lied? What?
Yeah, shock.
Yeah.
And then he proposes to her and says, because you've experienced all of this, you'd be bored to go back to your father and to go back to that life that you had. Marry me and come away with me. And she goes, no thanks. I'm going to go home. I'm going to learn absolutely nothing from this experience that I've been through. And I'm just going to go back to being my father's servant and serving the community. Off I go home, and there's the last chapter, basically rounding that up. And that's the end of the book.
It's a book where basically nothing changes from the beginning to the end.
No, nothing changes. What I took from this is he wanted to tell a short story of hot picking. He wanted to almost rant about the education system at the time, but do it through a fictitious way rather than through his essays that he's done.
I'm annoyed.
Same with the scene in Trafalgar Square. He wanted to, I guess, comment on the homeless situation rather than it being like down and out in Paris and London. And through all of this, we seem to have this religious tone that I'm really not sure what the point was, because she didn't learn anything. She didn't learn that the religion wasn't right for her and that she wasn't having a good life. But she also didn't seem to like the religion, but she just went back to, like, no idea what was going on in this book.
Randomly gibberish.
Honestly, yes. Yeah, I think you may have enjoyed
Pass.
the hot picking chapter, and you may have enjoyed the teaching chapter, but only because they are things that link to you.
Because hot picking, I think it'd be fun.
And they did interest you.
And I was a teacher.
But the book as a whole, for somebody who's not interested in those things, don't bother. It's terrible.
Oh, well, get it together. I know you died at 47 or something, but come on, figure it out.
You really didn't miss anything. You'd be better to read his essays if you want his opinion on education.
Yes.
And you'd probably be better to read literally anything else if you want to know about hot picking, because it wasn't even that detailed.
I think the most interesting thing about A Clergyman's Daughter, besides the fact that it's a bit of a dribble, is the fact that it is the weakest text of an acclaimed author, and not just an acclaimed author, probably one of Britain's most heralded authors. And so to read what is, I would say, is quite overtly and objectively his worst text.
This and
Kid the Asphodels Flying.
That's the one. He didn't like that one either,
I
and
haven't
said
read
that was bad as well.
I do need to read that.
We've got it.
We do have
Oh
it.
my
No, it's not going to be the chosen text, however,
No.
for this week. Do we have any other notes for it?
I think it's a shame that this wasn't just short stories.
I would have preferred a
essays.
collection of short stories that
Yeah.
broke it up, and that first one wasn't 85 pages long.
I was also, the problem is that all the way through this, you don't understand why her memories have suddenly gone missing.
And there's no explanation, is there?
And why she's ended up in London. It says she goes home. At the end of the first chapter, it remarks on her going home, and then that's it. And then it's her waking up the next morning. So all the way through, you're like, right, I'm going to get through this book because I want the mystery solved of what's happened to her. No, you don't get that. So you don't even get this payoff at the end of knowing what happened and getting an explanation. We still don't know. Did he rape her and suddenly, like, dump her in London even though they don't live in London? Did she wander off on her own?
I think she went to like a fugue state.
But she went home, and it says that she went home.
I get the implication that it's a fugue state brought on by a combination of mental stresses. And I think it's that she is... Because in the 85 pages I read, there is a gradual building up that is on the undercurrent. And I'm sure if this were a good book, I would think it were genius. But it's gradual building up of the realization of, this bit of my life is pretty bad. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, I hate where I live. Oh, I hate everything about my entire existence. And everything stacks on each other. And then she has a traumatic experience. And I guess the idea is that just, boom, she has a fugue state and just buggers off.
Yes, but kind of would like an explanation for that. Like,
I think the point is that otherwise, if I think if you did that, you would make it a mystery.
I get that, but I read 300 pages of dribble wanting a payoff.
Not even dribble.
No.
Dribble.
I
Saliva falling from the lips of a madman.
I needed a payoff. Like, there were points in this book where I was like, the only reason I'm carrying on reading is because I want to know what happened to her.
Yeah. And
I don't know what happened to her.
Don't read it.
Wouldn't waste
Unless
time.
you're a real Orwellian.
Yeah, if you want to read
War
every
fan.
single thing that he's ever written, read it.
Other than that, meh.
Meh. Sorry. It pains me to say it, but...
Sorry, Owa. So, for those who are not familiar, the idea of this series is that every month we review a book, but at the end of each episode we tell you what book we are going to do next month. In that month, both Olivia and I will read the book, and ideally so will you as well, and it will actually be monthly. Oh, there's an idea.
And you won't finish a book.
Yes. Although in retrospect, this episode... Oh, there's an idea. This episode actually will have come out in the time when there has been weekly episodes, so the thing I said at the beginning actually won't make any sense. But oh well. So, here we are. So, this month's book, that's right, we're a book club, is going to be a complete deviation from everything we've done so far, which is The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. No correlation whatsoever, right?
There's not meant to be a theme.
There's no theme, it's just like what we feel like.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think there's been some, I don't know. But this is a text very important to me and a key to my heart. And I don't know why. My mum gave it to me once when I was like 9. She said, read this. And I went, no, this is boring. And I shoved it in a cupboard. And like 4 years later, I randomly got it out.
What 9-year-old gets given.
I don't know. And I took it out and I started reading it, and I loved it. And I've read this book like 4 times, but it's been about a decade since I read it. So I read it a lot in my teenage years. Maybe about 8 years since I read it. And it's the story of a Chinese man and a family in a tumultuous period of China. When is it, actually? I think like maybe the Taiping Rebellion? I actually don't know. And the funny thing is, I've never researched this book or looked it up, but I've read it multiple times, because to me, the concept of the book is like not based in history. It's technically an historical fiction novel. Okay. It's actually another thing about this in a second. But it's technically an historical fiction novel because it's about someone who obviously doesn't exist, but it's a peasant family who grows well. But for me, the book is more about the earth, and for me, it's tied to that same concept in Of Mice and Men, living off the fat of the land. You know, the idea of being able to sustain oneself from one's own labor, from the ground, from the earth, to raise up from the ground, to raise cattle, to raise plants, and to build a family, whatever that is, you know? And that idea is central to me, hence why The Good Earth. Though apparently people consider it more along the lines of an historical novel and like a way to experience varying periods of Chinese history.
It's also not popular because
it's not popular at all.
They were supposed to be doing a new edition of the whole trilogy and it's been cancelled.
Didn't know that.
It was meant to come out, I think, last year or this year.
Very cool.
Yeah, and they just cancelled it.
Another weird thing. This is actually a trilogy.
Yeah, I just gave that bit away, sorry.
I didn't know this was a trilogy. I'd never read the other books. No one ever told me. It turns out it's meant to be a trilogy. Like you're like meant to care about the family. And so the second book goes on with the children. I don't care about the kids. I don't care about that. I only care about Wang Lung, and I don't even care about Wang Lung. I care about the concepts the book talks about. At least that's how I remember it.
So are we reading 1 or all 3?
I'm planning to just read the 1 for the month, and then see if we feel it. We have bought the other ones as well, but I would really like just to read this text because I think for me it's going to be really cool because I am going to be rereading it with the knowledge of I'm going into it with a certain thinking. And also, am I going to take away things from it that I did not get as a teenager, or am I going to find the book is not as good as I remember? Whereas Olivia has never experienced it.
No, I've never read it.
No. So, it's supposed to be good, but also no one likes it. So I think that makes it a good text.
Okay, I'm interested. I'm looking forward to reading it. You gave it to me when we were at school and I didn't read it. But strangely, you obviously did sell it because you made my mum read it when I was a teenager, but I still didn't read it.
Your mum read it.
Yeah, you convinced her to read it and she liked it.
Yeah. Well, now I think as well it's going to be a bit of a bigger hit for both of us because it's a lot about farming. It's a lot about agriculture, but not like industrial agriculture, the idea of deriving value from the ground.
Yeah, teenage me didn't care about that.
No, not at all. But also pleasure from it as well. The satisfaction of work and starvation. There's 2 different starvation events that occur, like famines, in the book. 2 different separate starvation. Well, it's China. There's going to be starvation at some point if you're talking about Chinese history set before 1930.
Okay, I don't really know much about Chinese history.
It's not great. It's pretty bad. Yeah, I wonder when it's actually set because I know a little bit more now, having played games like Victoria 2.
Does it say?
Well, it doesn't even come up.
There's a movie.
There's a movie. Wow.
Apparently, there's a movie.
It is set in a timeless China and provides no explicit dates, but there are references that provide approximate timeframes, such as the introduction of railroads and the 1911 revolution.
Okay.
There we go.
So we're going to read the book and watch the film.
Sounds good to me.
And am I reading that right? 1937, the film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Which just feels like a really old film.
That is old. That's a very old movie, yeah.
I almost want to watch it just for its age.
I mean, talkies were, 1928, 29? So, yeah, one of the early movies. So, read along with us. Let us know what you think. And then in the next month, which will be the first Saturday of December. So, hopefully in December, you will read this and enjoy it. Or no, by 1st of December, you will read this.
Yeah.
It's a bit destroyed, but we're trying to make this proper. We're trying to have missions and work towards them and actually put work into this channel and put a little bit more content out. We got brewing videos, we got all kinds of things. Hopefully by the time this comes out you'll have already had weekly videos for 3 months and you won't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, tell us if we got better at this.
And you can tell us if we got better at this. We're a small channel, frankly piggybacking off of the extremely mild success of my gaming channel, but I would probably prefer to put more work into this than gaming, to be honest, because this channel is about brewing, gardening, beekeeping and reading. And most of it with my wife. those are all pretty good things. So definitely leave a like and a comment, which we should have said at the beginning of the video. It's actually really important to say at the beginning in the first 30
Put up
seconds.
a little image at the bottom that's like,
It's no good.
like.
It's not good enough. Like and comment the video. It really helps a lot. And let us know what your opinions are on The Clergyman's Daughter, but also on whether or not if you're going to join us in reading The Good Earth. Great input. Thanks. I know, I was doing my spiel.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt your spiel. I'm just going to hold the book.
Hold book.
Hold the book.
So, see you in December.
Yep, and does anyone like this book? Is there anyone on the planet that likes this? Even the author didn't like it.
I hate it. See you next time in December. Bye-bye.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
No, because by the time we're doing the next video, it'll be the 1st of December. We'll be recording it on the 1st.